includes a 1 metre long human hair weft. We've tracked down the best type of human hair for dreadlocks, which is unlike the other extensions available online, where they're heavily processed and treated with chemicals to prevent them from knotting up. Hair that has only just been shampooed dreads the best, so it's recommended you use a residue-free shampoo to wash the hair weft. Also, in preparation for dreading, you may wish to generously spray the hair with Dreadlock Accelerator. It's a salt-based spray that texturizes the hair and helps dreadlocks form faster. Okay, so you need a fine-tooth metal comb for backcombing, a dreading crochet hook with a needle size of no bigger than 0.75, and we highly recommend the use of dread dust. Dread dust is a fine white powder that you won't run through the hair strands, and it texturizes the hair and makes it slightly sticky, so it gives something for the comb to grip onto. I'm starting by running some dread dust through the section of hair, and in this demonstration I'm working with 9 centimeters of weft. This will give me a dread that will end up being between 12 to 15 millimeters wide. As a general rule, you will find that a bundle of undreaded hair will end up being about double or even as much as triple the width once it's dreaded. So once you've decided the size that you want to work with and the size of dread that you need to cut the correct length of weft, bundle it together and tie a piece of yarn or string around the top and then anchor it. So as you can see, I've started to backcomb. A backcomb is pretty easy, it's just like teasing the hair. I'm placing the comb partway down this section of hair and I'm pushing it up to the top. Let only a few strands of hair move to the top as you go. So use the other hand to hold the extension somewhat firmly, but be careful not to hold it too tight as you'll have a tough time releasing the hairs. So once you have a few centimeters of backcombed hair, go back and rework that section to ensure the knots are firmly packed in. It doesn't have to be super tight, as it's naturally going to tighten with time. And you'll need a little bit of space in there for the hair strands to knot and lock and mature, but by the same token you don't want it really loose so that it falls out in a matter of days as well. Gently roll a section around so you're getting a nice round shape to the dreads as you go. After maybe 6 to 8 centimeters of backcombed dread is formed, it's time to start switching over to crocheting. There's no right or wrong way here. Holding the hook whichever way is the most comfortable is the right way to go. It's pretty straightforward. You're pushing the hook through the dread, grabbing a few hairs and then pulling them back into the center of the dread. Push it back out, grab some more hair and just keep repeating that process. It is the slower part and the more tedious part of making the dread, so just relax and get into your own groove. It's just like backcombing, you also need to slowly rotate the dread as you go as well to make sure you're covering all sides and keeping the dread nice and rounded and in shape. So as I continue to crochet, I'll just cover off on colouring and dyeing extensions. Our extension kits are available in blonde and medium brown, and being real human hair and of a Remy quality, they can be dyed. We recommend a good quality dye is used and that it's no stronger than 6%. It's a good idea to visit a hair salon or a hair specialty shop to get some advice on the best dye to use on human hair extensions. Always patch test as well, and keep in mind that everyone's hair will give a slightly different result. So if you're trying to match it with your real hair or with other coloured dreads, just do a little bit of experimentation before you dye the whole weft to make sure you get a good match. We also recommend against lightening these extensions. Keep that in mind when you're choosing which colour you want to go with. The reason for that is that the level of bleach needed to lighten the colour is going to cause too much breakage. So as you can see, the crocheting part of making a dreadlock is really the most time consuming part of it. You do need to take your time and it's quite relaxing, so just get into a groove. We're going to cut ahead in a minute and I'm going to show you how we're going to finish off the dread. But what you would do next after you're happy with the crocheted section is then revert back to backcombing. So backcomb again for another 5 to 6 centimeters, making sure you're firmly packing in the knots. The contrast between the section which has been crocheted and that which has only been backcombed is quite obvious, and you'll see what a big difference the crocheting that you've just done has made. So then you would work the crochet hook through that backcomb section, Take your time, make it nice and neat, pull in those hairs, creating little knots in the middle of the dread to make a nice firm dreadlock. Revert back to backcombing, then crocheting and so forth until you work your way to the end of the dreadlock. So there's a few ways to finish off the dreadlock. You can leave the ends nice and wispy, or you can make more of a rounded end. To do this, backcomb as far down the dread as you can, and then with some dread dust on your fingertips, rub the final few hairs together, and then fold them back along the dreadlock and crochet them in place. Once you're happy with how the end is finished off, just take a moment to go back along the dread and work any final loose hairs in using the dreading hook. You really can't crochet the dread too much, so the more you do it, the tighter and smoother dreadlock you'll end up with. Now your dreadlock extension is finished, it's time to attach it to your real dreads. For the purpose of this demonstration, I will be attaching it to another dreadlock extension that I've made earlier. You need to make sure your real dread has a nice blunt finish and it's dreaded to the bottom as much as possible. Take your extension and cut off the weft, then fan about 1 inch or 1.5 inches of hair out the top. You kind of want to rub it between your fingers, use some dreading dust as well to make it a little bit stickier and texturized. We're creating a nest in preparation for encasing the real extension into that end to form a nice firm join. So lay your real dread into the hair, and then take the crochet hook and start working the hook, grabbing a few hairs at a time to start forming a connection. Now, we often get asked when is the right time to attach extensions. We recommend that for best results that you do it between 3 to 6 months of getting your real dreads put in. It can take as long as a year, sometimes even more, for dreads to mature. So waiting about 3 months gives your dreads a good start. They have a chance to start the maturing process, to knotting up and locking and becoming tighter and tighter. If you wait much longer than 6 months, then it's just going to be, you can do it, but it's just a little bit harder because your dread is quite dense at that point and it's hard to work the needle into the dread. So between 3 to 6 months is the ideal time frame. So as you can see, I'm slowly moving the dread extension hair, the loose hair that I've fanned out at the top, and I'm encasing the real dread. And I'm crocheting and crocheting and trying to create a really good knotted connection here. So we're almost there. You can see that the real dread is starting to blend into the extension. Once this is finished, you'll have an absolutely seamless join and there'll be no clue, providing the colour matches perfectly, that there's an extension attached here. So keep working the dreading hook to tighten the join as much as possible. Now there's something else you might want to try, and something I like to also do is push the hook into the dread and rigorously pull it back and forth without letting it protrude out the other side. As you push it back and forth, slowly change the angle of the hook. Do it briefly for a minute or so. It really helps encourage the knots in the middle of the dreadlock, and it strengthens the join. So this join, and the extension for that matter, will tighten and mature and lock up further with time. Avoid putting too much pressure on the extension in the first few days, and you may also find that you need to go back and rework the hook a little bit to pull any loose hairs which may have escaped. Well, we're all done. Thanks so much for watching and good luck extending your dreads.